Well, maybe you could be the first one to ever answer this question. If the top layer is younger, where did it come from?
Can you win a first place medal twice? Because I did answer that in our last debate. Do you not remember?
No, tell me one more time. I have a bad memory.
Sure. So most of the atoms, they're going to be the same age. Now I told you in my opening, igneous rocks form from melted material, sedimentary rocks form from pre-existing material, and so do metamorphic rocks. They all come from pre-existing material.
Correct.
After the Earth was formed, whether it was by conventional science method or we can say God created the Earth and the heavens, once that happened, all the material needed was there. It's just been moving around ever since.
That's been my point. So moving it from here to the top of my coffee cup made it a brand new age. I just moved it up here.
Not quite.
Oh yeah, this is only 2 years old. I know.
The age of the fish in the cup did not change, but their positions are new. Kent, if you cut down a bunch of 50-year-old trees and use them to build a house, how old is the house?
Well, yeah, but if I was going to, every molecule in the house is, according to you, 4.6 billion years old. Every molecule.
But if you use them to build a house today, how old is the house?
Well, that's a good point. You're going to date the house by when it got built, when it got moved into, when the age of the materials that are in the house. Yeah, I might have bought the bricks and set them there for 20 years before I used them. So yeah, that's the whole point.
When the house was finished being built.
If that's what you
yesterday,
want to go by. Sure.
How old is the house?
Yeah, you can date it that way. Usually you can take the toilet and lift the lid up and look at the date on the back of the toilet to tell if it's a new house when it was built. Usually they start with a new toilet. But you're missing the point, though. All the layers, you're claiming that these layers are different ages, and we can know the age of these layers by how do you know if you find a layer of rock, how would you tell if it's Jurassic limestone or Cambrian limestone or Mississippian limestone? Don't each of these eras contain limestone? What's the difference between Jurassic limestone and Permian limestone?
Well, before we get to that topic, we want to go one topic at a time.
Okay.
So let's say 50 years ago, your grandpa cut down a bunch of trees and used them to build a shack. Then he built another shack 10 years later with some of the remaining wood. And then some more 10 years later, and so on and so forth. All of the wood that makes up these shacks is the same age. Okay. But the shacks are different ages. That's what we're measuring when we measure the age of a rock layer. We're measuring the time that the layer was formed, not that the atoms in the layer were formed.
Okay.
Does that make sense to you?
I'm going to form a new layer on top of my coffee cup. So this one has got to be younger than this one. Has to be.
Yeah, the formation of the layers just happened, even if the constituents have been around for a while.
It was sitting on the desk before, but I moved it now on top. So now it's younger. Isn't it younger?
No, it was moved and deposited. The particle is still the same age. The formation is new. And we can date the ages of formation.
So by taking the 50-year-old logs and building a cabin 20 years later, or a shack, I'm sorry, is it 30 years old or 50 years old? Is that your question? Because that would be my question too. How would you date it? Would you give it an age?
The age of the shack starts when the layer is finished. The age of the shack is when the shack is finished forming.